This episode of the Totally Rad Show is brought to you by Carbonite. Coming up, it's finally time to get our hands on the turn-based strategy game XCOM: Enemy Unknown.
Everybody, and welcome to the Totally Rad Show. We've got a great week for you today. We are finally getting our hands on XCOM: Enemy Unknown. You saw us talking to the developers last week.
Indeed.
Now we play these.
And we got a board game for you. It was all the Smash at Gen Con, and guess what? It's called Smash Up. You're gonna want to see that for sure.
Then on Wednesday, we're checking out the brand new TV show about the old comic book, Arrow.
Correct. Thursday, we are back in Game Town with What Is That? Very excited for the new Slow Time Progressing.
And then it gets serious on Friday.
It does. It gets
sinister.
Serious.
Because we're seeing Sinister and we're telling you about it. If we survive.
Who knows? I don't know.
Speaking of surviving.
Yes, awesome background.
Yes, that is a really awesome background. It is, how much more homemade is that?
I know.
That is sent in from Jason and Bergman, and his son, Anthony
yes.
drew our logo.
Very cool.
And then posed with
And
said
we were
logo.
just talking about how people don't put themselves in the backgrounds.
And then he
And
did.
then we get this. Boom. We got to use it. All right, people. Tons to do. Let's start.
The XCOM franchise was one of those in the heyday of PC games that spawned a number of sequels, was a huge hit, had a very rabid fan base, of which I was one. And a year or so ago, we got word, actually maybe more, we got word that XCOM was going to be rebooted, as so many of these old franchises have in recent years, like Fallout and numerous others. And it was going to come back as what? A first-person shooter. Hue and cry from the people like yours truly who wanted that turn-based strategy version of XCOM that we loved, that was the game that we fell in love with. Well, as it turns out, that wasn't the only XCOM game in development. We also have XCOM: Enemy Unknown. And while the first-person shooter version of XCOM has been fraught with delays, we've got the release of Enemy Unknown. And Enemy Unknown is an updated version of that classic turn-based strategy game where really the game has two main components. The first is a strategic military turn-based action game where you're moving your troops in an arena and trying to take down the aliens. And the other half of the game is really base building and sort of civilization style, investing in upgrades and technologies and creating your XCOM base, which is this awesome underground facility that's in charge of all the extraterrestrial activities all around the globe. So you're launching satellites and monitoring different continents. It's really cool. So two major focuses. Hopefully you saw we had an interview with the lead designer and producer of the game last week. If you haven't seen that, I urge you to do so. But when we finally got our hands on the game, Dan, you played on Steam on the PC. Tell me your experience with XCOM: Enemy Unknown.
Thought it was an awesome game. Regret not having played an XCOM game before. I've recently gotten into this kind of game, so that's helped with Civilization and Hero Academy.
I thought you were going to say,
and
iPads and iPhones
but yeah,
stuff.
all that stuff. We played that game Hunters, that was a ripoff of XCOM, right?
Very much so.
So I've been itching for this, and it's great to play the game as opposed to the analogs of it. Mm-hmm. And I think it's an awesome game in every way. I love the presentation of it. I love the screen where you're in your overworld, you're in your base, and that's where you assign units and spend money on this, that, or the other thing, to upgrade this, that, or the other thing, making all those choices. Just the look of that world, the way you navigate it is
sort of
really
like cutaway, like a dollhouse view.
Yes. So cool.
Yeah, it's really diorama.
Yes, a little terrarium. She's
Other
every way you
things,
can describe
other
it.
things that it could be.
Fish tank.
Yeah. Like an ant farm.
Yes.
Yeah.
yes.
Like sea monkeys.
All right.
Anyway, so so all the menu navigation is really cool. Like I said, all the presentation is awesome. The strategy gameplay is so refreshing, and I love that with today's tropes, the little flourishes that are injected. So when you're busting through a door, it's seamlessly like you'll see like so often when we play any type of role-playing game, from pen and paper to video games, like we want that are more gamey and less robust. You have to use your imagination to that would. I feel, it's like I'm busting through the door, I'm da-da-da-da-da-da. But like to get this, and I always wish I could see that, but I wish I could see that, but still have tactical gameplay, still have that more gamey, dissected gameplay as opposed to full immersion like in a first-person shooter. So this really combines those two elements.
And it does it dynamically too. It's not like, well, you triggered the cutscene part.
Right.
It'll just throw you into that.
And it doesn't have to suddenly load, like in Resident Evil, where in old Resident Evil, load the door open. Like, it's so seamless. It's so right off the bat. Seamless. I will say, I mean, it struck me too that there's a lot of fun in this kind of game because of the pacing in the games that we more often play, like first-person or third-person action games, where they're not as rewarding because you feel like you're doing what everyone else who's playing is doing, even if there's divergent storylines or whatever. You're still just kind of doing whatever the only things you can do. So a game like this, where it's not just you have more choices to make, it's tactical. You can only use strategy. So when you are successful, you really feel so much more rewarded by it. And then to throw in, I don't know if the original XCOM had those RPG elements where you're upgrading individual units was so cool. And there's such a great, like, the death,
the honorarium where you can go and see.
No, but I was gonna say too, like when a character dies that you've leveled so far, you really feel that death.
The stakes are raised.
Right, the stakes are raised. So you got to really protect that person because he's the only person with the med pack right there, or he's the only person with the stun gun, and you need to stun an alien, whatever. Like, there's so much dynamic happening. One of the only things I wished occurred was a little bit more. Like, I like the cutscenes really filling out the world. I kind of wish that even in non-cutscenes, characters were talking, and because I really wanted to get into the fiction of it, but I didn't feel that the XCOM base was alive. And what really would have put me over the moon was if my soldiers, when I'm playing, doing the actual action parts of the game, if they were ribbing on each other, saying things like, I would have fallen in love with this character because he always makes this kind of comment. Like, that's what, that would have been my favorite game, you know?
Yeah.
But so I think it's a phenomenal game.
Alex, you also played on PC.
I also played it on PC, and I'm interested to see how the camera worked on the 360 version, because that was my only gripe, was that the camera wasn't fluid. You know what I mean? Like, you really had to you rotate it with the keys, and then you could kind of zoom out, but you had to click a button, and then when I would get to a cool zoom out thing, I was like, great, this is how I want it to look all the time, and then whenever you would change to the next character, it would bring you back into this, and then you press the center button, zoom out. Okay, this is how I want it to look. So I'm interested to see how the camera worked on the 360. That's too bad. Because it's a great game. It's so fun, it's so refreshing, and this is the type of thing that I hope that this is successful enough to have, more game studios go, let's not take this franchise or this style of playing, this gameplay mechanic, and bring it into the 21st century by changing the gameplay mechanic.
Yeah.
You can do so much. This is such a great example of taking a game, like I could see Myst being redone and having more sort of cutscene type things, but you're going from scene to scene. Maybe it's a fluid move instead of just sort of like new picture, but that kind of thing where the gameplay at its core is the same. It's that slow-paced, I want to see more games that have this gameplay mechanic, but that use that, as you were saying, that going in and seeing the guy slide up and slam up against the wall when you've sent him. So satisfying. And, it just really, and the full cutscenes, and you're talking to your researchers, and you know what I mean? Like, that stuff, it's like, yeah, you can do that now. Why wouldn't, you know what I mean? But man, the strategy stuff is surprisingly fun. I'm not a big RTS fan, but I think this TTS, I guess, the turn-based strategy.
TPS.
Yeah. Is really kind of up my speed, and I'm wondering if it's because we've gotten into, or at least I know how to do these things because of Magic.
Oh, Magic? I thought just board games in general.
Well, yeah. But Magic to the point where it's like, I got my guys go, I know your guys are gonna go, I know that they're, you know what I mean? So where do I want my guy, or D&D, you know what I mean? Like, where do I want my guys? And it has a lot of that, like, in 2 moves, I can do this. And then when you start going towards that, how they react, then I'm not going to be able to do that. So now I got to figure out how to shift and do all this stuff. And the upgrading, I mean, I'm a sucker for RPGs. The upgrading stuff is so fun.
Oh, it's so deep, and there's so much of it.
Yeah, and you start upgrading people, and you're just like, oh, don't kill my frickin' sniper. Like, why would you do that to me? You know what I mean? So there's a lot of really
abilities, and
there's a lot of really, really great stuff here. The camera was my only kind of issue where I felt like I was constantly fighting the camera to get into something where I could see how I want to see. And that was, that's a minor gripe for a very, very, very robust game.
Yeah, this might be my favorite game of the year. I was a huge fan of the original XCOM games. I'm a huge fan of turn-based anyway. You guys know I'm a huge fan of board games. This feels like the best things about board games, where I get to plan my strategies. And then the other side, when you're upgrading your home base, there are so many wonderful, juicy decisions to be made along the way, and such great context for them, like digging into the earth and excavating areas and having to install an elevator down to excavate deeper to install new factories and new things and upgrades for your city, or not city, but home base. If you're a detail guy like me, there are so many wonderful nitty-gritty details, little fiction bits, but also, you can carve in, you can dive deep and literally change the look of each individual soldier that you have, and really.
I didn't want to do that though, because they die.
I know, but how wonderful is that? You get invested in these characters because you've gone through time with them and they've leveled up.
I might do that actually.
It is awesome. You make Dan and Alex and Mike.
Oh no!
Well, there's people that
aliens
look like.
killed Jeff.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It is a phenomenal update to a classic gameplay style. And as you were saying, like, I want more games. Here's the thing. I love turn-based, and we've ran, as an industry, the industry has run scared away from it in every way. I mean, when I was a kid, the games that I loved the most, role-playing games like Baldur's Gate and Ultima, those games, the combat systems were turn-based,
Yeah.
And now
Like
everything
Final
needs
Fantasy
to have.
is the only thing that's kind of kept that a little bit.
Yeah, but the Japanese role-playing game has its own kind of turn-based that is very satisfying in its own way, but it's not this. It's not that tactical thing. And games like King's Bounty, which has fed that, I've latched onto as well. But I want, the first Dragon's Age sort of half-assed, like, gave you, like, well, you can pause after everything and set your thing. But it wasn't this, and this is so much fun. I numerous times would go back and replay scenarios, and things always come out differently. The enemies behave in different ways. It is
the other thing
fascinating.
They made it, a lot of games do this where everything is sort of modular. BioWare does this a lot, like Mass Effect, where everything was so modular that it really was kind of hard to feel like you were in that universe. Dragon's Age was more like that.
The second Dragon's Age.
Yeah, the second Dragon's Age. They really feel, because you're never sort of outside, but I felt like this was all happening. I felt like there was a world outside and I was traveling to, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and the maps
there's
are
always
so
this
interesting.
pressure where, like, panic is ensuing in Asia, and there you gotta choose which one you go. So you always feel like, and then you shoot down a UFO. Do you go inspect that now, or are you waiting on something else to pop?
Yeah.
So
and
those stuff make you feel like.
I don't think you can overstate what a big deal the destructible environments are.
Oh, yeah.
To adding to the tension, adding to the strategy, the tactics of what you're doing. I mean, it is so satisfying to, like, get to an area and there's like a big rig truck with a thing in the back, and I send my sniper up to the top of that big rig truck, and she has like a height advantage and is looking down, and then I send my other guy around to a car. Well, the bad guys or the aliens shoot that car and it's on fire, so I gotta scoot that guy out, and then the car explodes and they're shooting out windows, and it is such a dynamic, thrilling experience that turn-based might not give people the sensation or the idea that it would be thrilling and visceral, because you feel like, oh, I need to have that action every second to make it amped up. But it is amped up when you can take a second and be like, oh my God, there's crisis over here, crisis over there.
By the way,
they panic.
This dynamic needs to be done with the D&D. A D&D video game.
I mean, that's how it used to always be. That's how it used to always be back in the day. You know?
But I mean, like the
Rules of Radiance.
role-playing game.
And by the way, co-op D&D, easily 5-player co-op D&D. Boom! It's my turn. I'm going over here. I'm watching everything else unfold, and then I'm going. What should we be doing?
It'd be
All
cool
right,
to
dude,
have
you go over
an
here.
MMO where the combat. Like Final Fantasy.
Well, the problem with
where
that-
when you proc a guy, it zooms in and now you're those old overworld and then whatever. Like,
problem with that is that you can't be waiting for someone else to do something in a massive multiplayer environment because you're constantly waiting.
Yeah, but if it's
must be an
4-player
instance-
co-op and
like-
I'm the ranger and I go up to the truck and I was like, all right, everybody move around. We're gonna flang. You know what I mean?
I just want to say too that to Alex's point that I still would like to see the first-person shooter version of this game. Like
You like the universe enough that you want to investigate more.
Definitely, it's cool because the first-person shooter, I remember the take being, you have to go to a scene and investigate it. Like there were elements of it that were more unique and derived from XCOM through a strategy game, and I just think it's cool to see. I tend to like it when we've seen something always in one way, and I like the idea of now the same sensation of we've played a lot of these kinds of games. We play Halo, so it's fun to see an alien invasion game turn-based. Well, I kind of like this game that started out as turn-based that's in this specific fiction and seeing it
like going back to your main base, upgrading all your stuff.
And that's what they were showing.
LA Noire with aliens.
Hopefully we'll get that. My only gripe with this one, with Enemy Unknown, it's very minor too, is I wish there was an autosave. I love that it has the PC.
There is. You just turn it on.
No,
it's an option that's
it's
on.
a
computer.
Yeah.
Maybe I should.
It was off.
Not a gripe.
Yeah, it actually was. I wish I could.
I mean, you can save anywhere, which is should be in all games, but
I wish I could wish there was a manual quick save on Steam, but then I realized the autosaves are saving after every single move.
Oh,
so
really?
Then I went. I started to realize, oh, that guy didn't have to die. I can just go back to my save game.
You mentioned how
Took me a
quick
while.
it is. You can move through menus so quickly. You can always skip cutscenes. This game was
good
just
on the
great.
Xbox, navigating with a controller. And
Oh yeah, I should have mentioned that. I played on Xbox, and yes, easy, simple, intuitive.
Cool.
Fantastic game. I couldn't recommend it higher.
Cool. All right, everybody, be sure to stick around. We're going to answer a Twitter question right after this, but first we want to thank our sponsor. Carbonite online backup is automatic cloud backup for your computer files at your home office or your small business. Just set it up once. Carbonite will protect your computer files so that you can stay focused and awake and alert on running your business.
So you sort of set it and forget it.
There's no hardware. It's the Ron Popeil of backup plans. There's no hardware. With Carbonite, getting lost backup files is easy as pie. Your employees can even access their backed up files on their smartphones or their iPads with the free Carbonite app. Carbonite is by far the better backup plan for your home office or small business. You can start your free trial, carbonite.com. Use the offer code TRS today, and you'll get 2 bonus months if you decide to buy. That's carbonite.com, and the offer code for 2 BOMOs is TRS.
Do it. Proceed with the doing it. Stop with the not doing it.
Proceed with the lack of caution.
No, that's you get tons of caution.
Caution.
That's the smartest thing to do. Caution. Also, send in your back.
Caution, mate.
Join us tomorrow for board games when we check out Smash Up.
Today's Twitter question sent in with the hashtag #TRSQ is sent in by Michael Hollander at Shanghai_McGee. Do you guys ever miss being able to wear green on set?
Why? What happens when you wear green on set?